Are you ready to untangle from your past, recover from heartbreak, and revive your life? This is Soul CPR with your host, Ann Papayoti. We've all had soul-crushing experiences and lost ourselves in our pain, but there is a way out. On this podcast, Amazon best-selling author, award-winning life coach, and advice columnist Ann Papayoti helps us navigate the path from heartbreak to healing. So now, please welcome the host of Soul CPR, Ann Papayoti.
Hello, everyone. Have you ever felt like you lost who you are, felt broken, even overwhelmed, and just didn't know where you were on life's path at some point or another? Well, if so, you are not alone. I've been there myself, and so has my guest. And today I am thrilled to introduce you to truly a radiant soul. Denice has spent the last decade guiding women back home to themselves who have found themselves lost on life's path at some point. She's done this through her work as a massage therapist, as an energy healer, and a holistic practitioner. Now, she believes that complete health begins with the sacred connection between the mind, the body, the spirit, and the soul. And she believes that these four components forms the four cornerstones of vibrant and joyful living. Now, in the past year, Denice has followed, I'd say, a deeper calling from her soul, and she has now begun a practice of one-on-one and group coaching where she helps women connect with their deeper intuition and understand how their bodies actually speak to them so that they can then heal themselves, right? And we're going to talk more about this. And at the same time, create deeper, meaningful transformations throughout every aspect of their life, and at the same time honor their energy, learn all about their values, and create boundaries in their lives to enjoy more rewarding relationships throughout the fullness of their life. Now, her mission is all about love and connection and empowerment, and reminding women of the radiant power within and guiding them to discover their purpose, their passion, and their true bliss. So without further delay, Denice, welcome to Soul CPR. I'm so honored to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much, Anne. I am just tickled pink to have this honor to spend more time chatting with you. And I just want to thank you for this blessing.
Oh, absolutely. Denice and I should reveal to everyone that we are new friends, that we have met working on a project together that is Denice's brainchild, and she's put so much effort, time, and energy into creating what is called a roadmap to, a women's roadmap to complete health. I didn't want to misspeak that. And where she has gathered a multitude of speakers, and I am one of those. And we're going to tell people more about that at the end of the show, where they can sign up for that and be a part of that. And it's completely free, right, Denice?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to encourage everyone to take advantage of that and to have that as a resource in their back pocket to help them on their own journeys. So with that, we have had a lot of fun, but today we're flipping seats and I get to interview Denice here on Soul CPR. So Denice, we were talking about people losing their way, losing themselves in life's journey. And I know a lot about your story, but our listeners do not. So let's talk a little bit about your life journey. There's always something, a trigger, a turning point where if we think back on our journeys when we lost our way. So tell us about yours, when that happened, what were the circumstances, and what was the trajectory? Where did you go?
Sure, Anne, I'd love to. I truly, when I look back on my story, it's almost like I can't believe that this is actually, I lived this. This was my life. It feels like it was so long ago. But I grew up in, a happy Christian home, like many people. And I learned a lot of good things, about love and forgiveness. And, there was really good pillar type teachings that I learned. But I was
Mhm.
also told what to think, what to believe, who to become, and I kind of had this fairy tale life idea that, you go to school and then you find a man and you get married and you have kids and you live happily ever after. That was just kind of, where I thought my life was going. And, by the time I hit 16 and had my first boyfriend, I also had my first heartbreak. And I realized that that dream was not actually true. And it left me very severely depressed, even questioning my existence, which I know a lot of people can relate to when you go through, a deep heartbreak. My next relationships after that, because I hadn't really healed or done anything, they were full of trauma. There was, emotional abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. I was just, broken. I felt lost. I felt alone, and I was ashamed. I had no support system. I'd moved away from any friends that I'd known in the church, and I just allowed myself to be put in these situations where abuse it just seemed to take over my life, and I was empty inside. I felt very, very hollow. At that time, I also had two very close people pass away, and that really put me into a spiral of grief. I was already feeling lost and ashamed, and didn't have a support team, and through that, I also didn't have anybody to reach out to, and this grief just, it overtook me, and I didn't know how to reach out or to even look for getting help or where to even look. I just felt like nobody understood what I was going through, and the pain was just so bad. I started looking for ways to numb that pain, which, is a very similar story for a lot of people. Unfortunately, it led me down a very dark path. I got into a party scene where drugs were very prevalent, and I kind of jumped both feet into this new experience. And that life is it's a hard life, it's a dark life, and it didn't leave me feeling any better about myself. In fact, it left me feeling even worse, because I had even more terrible experiences happen. I experienced rape through that period of time, and just this overarching darkness that I just couldn't seem to get over or to shake. It was really, really hard. At one point, I ended up, I had my second drug overdose, I guess, and I was really left feeling like my only options in life were to go to jail or end up in jail, to end up dead, or, what was my other option? If I wanted to live, I had to do something, I had to change something. So, the goodness of a friend bought me a bus ticket, and I had 46 cents in my pocket and a suitcase. And I hopped on that bus, and I moved 12 hours away to this place that seemed amazing and happy. I moved to Victoria, BC on the island, and, I didn't have any friends. I didn't have a job. I had, I guess, an acquaintance that said I could stay on her couch for, a period of a short time until I found work and stuff. And so I took that chance. And I still, I was recovering. I was getting out of the drugs, but, there's a process, obviously, that you have to go through when you're letting go of any kind of an addiction like that. And just as I kind of felt like, yeah, maybe life is turning around, 6 months later, I end up pregnant. And so now I'm 23 years old, working at 7-Eleven, making minimum wage, living in this crappy apartment, pardon my language. And now I have this life growing inside me. And it really was the beginning of realizing that, now you seriously have to change your life, because somebody is depending on you. And
Yeah.
so, I did move into a period of trying to better my life, but I was in a very toxic relationship. There was, again, emotional abuse, mental abuse, and the dark cycle just, never seemed to get better. My finances were hard, and it was just really, it was a struggle. I finally ended up, breaking off that relationship, and I moved out. So then now I was a single parent with an 18-year-old, and many more struggles come along with being a single parent and raising a young child. And I was doing fairly well, I guess, at a job that I had, but money just, it wasn't working out, and I found myself in debt, basically, with no money, eating out of the food bank, and with no real end in sight to things getting better. So
Mhm.
I ended up shifting my life, and I moved a province away to start over again. But that meant leaving the support system that I had built up. I had built friends in this new job. They were loving, they were kind, and I was starting to see that maybe there was hope.
Right.
Um, but it was tough. It was hard to start over again without a support system. And so once again, I fell into alcohol. This coping mechanism that I always seem to reach for. I was depressed. I had no friends in this new place. I had just struggle. It just felt like, and so I started to drink to mask again that hollowness. Um,
Right.
and it never seemed to stop. It never seemed to get better. It was just struggle after struggle. I ended up working on a farm where I spent most of my time outside in nature. And this was probably one of the best things for me because I began to feel slightly alive again, being outside in nature, being outside in the elements. I loved that job. But the boss and myself had a very toxic relationship. And without really understanding energy or how I take on other people's energy, I began to take on a lot of the stress that he was under as an overachieving, overworking person. And I began to really, really suffer with anxiety, really bad.
Oh.
I tried to mask it with alcohol, tried to, numb myself so that I wasn't, so open to this really strong energy. And I was feeling
Mhm.
so much guilt over, missing out on my daughter's childhood because I was a single mom and I had to work all the time. And I was just this overriding guilt of, missing out and having to rely on my mom to always come and, watch my kid during the busy seasons on the farm and stuff. And it was just, I was just suffering. Everything was just a struggle. And, I had no support system or didn't really know how to go look for one, right? I didn't know
Mhm.
where to, or even what I needed to try and help. And so, unfortunately, my drinking led me to getting a DUI. I lost my driver's license. And my job, both of my jobs, depended on me being able to drive. I lived in a rural area. I was 15 minutes away from the closest grocery store. So, losing my driver's license was basically the end of the world that I could see
Okay.
it. Now I can't even go to the grocery store. Now I can't even drive my kid to school. Now, what am I going to do? My
Mhm.
parents come stay with me to be able to, drive us around and kind of take care of us. And it was just like this never ending cycle of suffering. I ended up with a sleep disorder. I had to go on medication because I couldn't sleep and I was, getting overexhausted. And um, it was just a really, really tough time for me that, I didn't see a way out. I didn't see
Right.
how this could ever possibly get better. They do
Yeah.
say that, you know, time heals all things. And time, when you lose your license, all you have is time. You got to wait till you can, get your license back. You got to wait till
Right.
you can kind of get back into life again. And I just felt like an utter failure. I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed. And I just couldn't believe that this was my life.
Mhm.
This is it. Is this all there was? Like, all those years ago when I chose to live and I moved away, like for what?
Yeah.
Is this really all there is to life? I just didn't see.
Let's go
I just
back and talk about a few of these things because I imagine a lot of people are going, been there, yes, or feel that now. So, thinking back to, growing up in the church and all of that, and kind of having that pillar foundation. And then you mentioned, I never healed from that first heartbreak. And then this series of events in your life and never healing, always coping, finding a
yeah
way to cope, not a healthy way to cope. And I think
yeah
that's what people can relate to. Same thing happened to me. Um, Mine wasn't hard drugs, mine was food, and I became overweight, and mine was alcohol, and I overdrank, which then I became an underachiever. I went from the overachiever to underachiever. So everybody finds a way to cope they think is coping is unhealthy, right? And some have greater ramifications than others. but all are isolating. All have guilt, shame, all these things attached. As you're saying, you didn't know who to ask or how to ask. And I think sometimes those of us who have that church background may let shame hold us back from reaching out for help, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you and I've talked about that before. But as you move forward, I think the theme here is these ongoing struggles from never having healed the initial wound, and then just moving into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Um, but it sounds like when you got to this DUI, it's sort of the end of the road. Now all you had was time. And time can help us heal if we cooperate with time. And it is time for our first commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to find out what you did with that time and how some of these wounds started turning into some wisdom for you and what happened next. So don't go far, everyone. We'll be back with Denice and more Soul CPR.
Mike Zorich, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Soul CPR Healing Out Loud. I'm Ann Papayotti, today with my guest, Denice Buryn. And we are talking about Denice's very traumatic but also inspirational story. And Denice, you were just sharing before the break about how you had gotten to this place now with the DUI, truly end of the road. You couldn't get to either of your jobs, and you were left with time. What did you do with this time?
Well, I sat down with a bottle of whiskey and a campfire one night, and I said, "What the hell are you doing? What are you doing with your life? And what are you going to do now? You have literally used up all of your options. What are you going to do?" And I decided that maybe it was time to go back to school. It was time to do something different. A friend of mine, actually my massage therapist, had mentioned it, maybe a couple times a month earlier that, maybe you should look at doing massage therapy school. You'd be really good at it. And so in this moment of, midnight fire in myself, I thought, yeah, well, let's try it. Let's see. I'll get a student loan. I'll make it work. I'll go to school. And so I chose to take a holistic practitioner training as opposed to just massage therapy. And I'm so glad that I did. Through this through the holistic practitioner training, I began to learn about traditional Chinese medicine. I began to learn about energy for the first time. I began to learn about how we hold emotions in the body. I began to learn all of these ancient techniques, these ancient wisdoms and medicines that, I'd never heard of,
Mhm.
but were proven to help. And so through study, it was a 2-year program. So time, right? Over time, I began to learn all of these techniques, and I began to implement them. In this time, I began to work on other people. I kind of started a part-time job alongside that very toxic farm job. But I started to work on people, and I started to work with their energy. I was massaging them. We were working on, the physical body, but also I was getting into understanding the energy. And I started to see shifts in my clients, like really amazing things. And it really cemented the belief in me that, there's something to this. There's something to all of this energy healing. And, you know, if they're having such great results, maybe I could have such great results. And so I started to lean into some of the practices, and which was all well and good, but I didn't lean hard enough, and I didn't make enough healthy choices soon enough to where, my physical body still wasn't recovering. I was starting to clear out some of the energy, but my physical body began to have reactions, and I started to become very sick, physically sick, to the point where, I couldn't even get out of bed in the morning without throwing up. It was just literally, I felt like I was dying on the inside. Looking back now, I feel as if it was all of that trauma. It was all of everything that I had stuffed down for so long. It was coming to the surface to be healed. But in
Mhm.
this process, it was very, very hard. And so after, a month or so of just feeling like I was dying on the inside, I woke up one morning and I decided that's it. Like, it's time. So I attended a poop seminar, actually. I learned about gut health. I would recommend a poop seminar to everybody, just learning about your gut.
Yeah.
I learned about food. I learned about, taking Hippocrates' statement of let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. I really leaned into that. I stopped eating anything that was poisonous, poisonous to my blood type. I started, drinking a lot of water. I started meditating every day. I started learning about energy clearings and how important it was to clear my energy on a daily basis, especially because I was working with other people and I was in a very toxic job, right? I began to all of a sudden understand, okay, when I show up to work and he's in a bad mood, and now I'm in a bad mood, this isn't actually my mood. This is his
Yeah.
bad mood that I've picked up. And I started to, all the pieces began to come together because I was opening myself up to all of these ancient teachings and just trying something, right? If something didn't work or it didn't resonate, I tried something else. I got
Yeah.
into, crystals. I absolutely love crystals. They're such
Yeah.
great boosts for, helping to keep your energy clear. And, I just started doing one thing at a time. I took supplements to help rebuild my health, and the weight that I was carrying, it literally just melted off me. I didn't start a big exercise program. I really just started eating to support my body, to give it good health and just support, I guess. And it started to reflect. Through my daily meditation practice, I began to connect with my soul for the first time ever in my life. And I began to feel good. I began
Mm.
to feel like I was coming alive again in a way that I had never, ever experienced in my life. I began to talk kindly to myself
Yeah.
instead of all the other things that we typically say to ourselves as women sometimes. And I just began to believe that I actually have this power to change my life
Mm.
situation. Like I can do this, right? Every little change I made, every little step forward, it just gave me the belief that I don't have to stay stuck in
Yeah.
this reality that I'm in. And I finally quit that job. I finally quit that toxic job, and I went
Beautiful.
just full time into my healing business. And by allowing myself to embrace my spiritual side, it opened up this whole new realm of possibilities. I dove into, what are my beliefs? Right? Growing up
Mhm.
in the church, you're told what to believe, you're told what to think, you're told about how the world works. And none of that resonated with me at all. But I also didn't know what I actually believed, right? I didn't know who I was still yet at this point. And so I went down the rabbit hole, and I dove into what are my beliefs and what do I actually believe? Is this my belief? Or is this a belief that I grew up being told? Does this resonate with me? Yeah, no, this is not my belief. And I just became very clear on what my beliefs were, what my values were, what was truly important to me in my life. My relationship with my daughter, teenager by this time, started to change, and my reactions started to change. And so instead of, flying off the handle like I used to when there was a lot of alcohol involved, I began to have that pause, right? That beautiful pause of where instead of jumping into reaction, you just take a step back and you think, okay, let's just breathe here for a minute. Let's just breathe and think about this. What's a loving way that I can respond instead of just reacting? And so through all of this mindfulness and the meditation practice and just coming back to myself, or coming to myself, I can't even say back to myself, because I don't think I had ever really been in myself. You know what I mean? Like,
Truly, yeah, I do.
I had never really known myself, and I put myself really into solitude. I let go of any toxic relationships, friendships, things, places. I just really leaned into the acreage, my property that I lived on. And it was so healing. It was in nature. There was trees all around, and I just leaned into this beautiful place of healing and magic. And I began to finally feel like I was coming alive, like I knew who I was. And it felt so good for the first time in my life to actually love myself.
That's innovation right there. Is it fair to say you replaced your former coping mechanisms, which weren't coping, they were self-sabotaging behaviors? Is it fair to say your new coping mechanism was just love? Just love, the way you would respond to your daughter, the way you would respond to yourself, the way you approached life just came from a place of understanding and love, understanding your place in the world, who you are in the world. And everything, it sounds like you came back to what does love look like and sound like in this moment? To me, to them, to her, to him. And that made it easy to assess relationships, people, places, and things, right? Because people say it's hard to let go. Not really, not when you have such a criteria as you've set forth for yourself. That's awesome. I love that.
When you begin to check in, how does this make me feel? How does this person make me feel? Do they make me feel good? Not really? Okay, well then how important should they really be in your life? Right? Does this situation, does this place, does it make me feel good? Not really? Well, maybe it's time to just put this aside, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I should lean more into things that do make me feel good, that make me feel energized and joyful, not drained and sad or overwhelmed, right? Tapping into the feeling of how things make you feel is an excellent guide to what is truly right for you.
Exactly. And I know you talk a lot about the body will tell you. So tell us more about that. So what is when there's pain in the body, what is that aligned with emotionally? Let's talk about that.
Sure. So everything that you feel in your physical body has already happened in your energetic bodies.
Okay.
So the way that your physical body talks to you through pain, through inflammation, through illnesses, through disease, this is all a manifestation of what you've been holding inside of your energetic body, usually for quite some time. Because your intuition is going to talk to you. You're going to have little hints. You're going to kind of be guided throughout the way when something comes up, something maybe is stuck, maybe you're, holding on, trapped emotions, and you haven't quite dealt with something. You just kind of stuffed it down like I did for so many years. But when you stuff things down and you don't deal with it, right, eventually it starts to manifest into something. And so if you don't clear your energy, and if you're not aware of the emotions and the experiences you're holding on to, your physical body, the matter of your body, will eventually start to relate to you and talk to you, because if you can't hear me energetically, you're going to hear me physically. You're going to hear me when, your knees are painful. You're going to hear me when your hips hurt. You're going to hear me when your back hurts, right? So the physical body will start to talk to you to give you clues as to what is going on energetically, because above all things, you are an energetic being before you are ever a physical being, right? Your soul has existed before you've been in this physical body. It's existed for quite some time. So you are an energetic body before you're ever a physical body. And so learning how to talk to the body, just to say, hey, body, how are you doing today? Are you feeling any pain? And then, close your eyes and tap in and just see what hurts in the body. And then you can go that one step deeper and ask, okay, I hear you. Thank you. Is there something that I'm holding on to that's causing this? Right? What can I do for you? What do you need from me? What do I maybe need to release? What do I need to clear? Is this even my own issue, or is this somebody else's issue? Right? That's where the practice of daily energy clearings can really start to help you get a better picture of what is mine and what is not mine. Because those experiences I had at the farm, 9 times out of 10, that bad mood I was in, it was not my bad mood. I loved that job. I loved it. But like that, it could turn into a bad day and a bad mood, but it wasn't mine. It was his. And I didn't realize at the time. The body will talk to you, but you have to be open to listening. And Louise Hay, pioneer, right? She wrote the You Can Heal Your Life book. And in there, she has symptoms for so many physical issues inside the body. And she has the energetic issue of what you're holding on to, what needs to be cleared in order to heal that physical symptom that you're experiencing. So I always recommend to all of my clients, pick up that book, get the little blue book, get the bigger book, right? And just start talking to your body.
I had written it too. Yeah. It's and there's always an affirmation, right? She always has an affirmation to go along with it, which is very helpful.
Yeah. It's
and
so great when you start
self-love.
Yeah, exactly that. When you start to love on yourself and you start to appreciate everything your body does for you and everything about your day, even if it's good or bad, because I've had a lot of bad days, but when you can just choose, that today I'm going to have a good day, and it doesn't matter what happens, I'm just going to have a good day today, and I'm just going to let it be, right? It all comes down to how you're choosing to show up for yourself in your life, and inviting that love and that forgiveness and that compassion in for yourself. Yeah.
Love it. It is time for our second break, and we have so much more to talk about, and I could probably talk to you for, I don't know, indefinitely. But anyway, Denice, don't go far. Listeners, will be back with more Soul CPR.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth, and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Soul CPR on Build Brave TV. I'm Ann Papayotti today with my guest, Denice Buryn. So, Denice, you talk about scars, those that are both visible on the body and those that are invisible. Talk to me a little bit about scars and your thoughts around scars.
Absolutely. So part of my training was learning how to read the body, learning to see, inflammation, freckles, marks on the body, birthmarks, scars, and they all tell a story. And I know there's, a stigma around with a lot of women about, say stretch marks, right? A lot of people feel ashamed by these scars on their body. And to me, every scar on the body tells a story, and it's nothing to be ashamed of or to ever hate on about yourself, right? Our physical body is just this form that we are moving through this human existence with, and it is just a body. It means nothing about who you are. So for those that carry physical scars, that people can see, I think they're just absolutely beautiful because it just tells the story, kind of like I was here, right? I lived my life. I was here. It's like those Inukshuks, those rock structures that people will put up when they go places. I was here, right? Well, your scars show that you lived and you've experienced this human life that you came here to experience. But there's also those unseen scars, those scars that people don't see on the inside. And I experienced so many scars through, the trauma, the abuse, the PTSD, the grief, everything. It left such deep scars on the inside that people couldn't see. I was a really good actress. I put on a really happy face for a lot of people for a lot of years, and nobody could even begin to guess that I was hurting so bad on the inside. And I think a lot of us carry those scars, those unseen scars that, you might feel shame around, you might feel embarrassed by, you might feel like unlovable because of these scars. And one of my deepest messages that I want all the women of the world to hear is that you are not your scars. They simply show you the life that you lived, but it doesn't mean anything about you. And it doesn't mean that you have to continue to live a life that proves those scars, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can change anything about your life. I did multiple times. And it's possible. You just have to want to. You just have to have, an idea or a goal that is better, even if it's only this much, that's right. Better than where you are. Love teaching women how to find the beauty in themselves, because I just think there needs to be more of it. Coming back to love, right? It's all coming back to love, just teaching your body.
It does all come back to love. And I absolutely love the way you express your philosophy about scars, because if we could just embrace the fact that our bodies are vehicles, right, to take us through, and that someone used and I've adopted this, they use the term blessing scar, when there's a scar that saved your life for something, for example, my melanoma scar. And I'm like, yeah, that's a blessing scar. I'm not going to cover it. I proudly show it on my chest, right? So just looking at these visible scars in that way, and then all these invisible scars that may have shame and other, I don't know, self blame, all these different connotations attached to them, to be able to process those differently and to recognize that we can change the narrative of our story, which will change how we feel. and then change how we show up in life for ourselves and others, coming from that place of love. And it has to start with self-compassion before we can ever show up differently for anyone else. But if we can start with self-compassion, it's going to really change how we experience life. And I know you and I've talked before, sometimes that wanting to feel differently, we have to just give ourselves permission to want something different. Give yourself permission to want it, and then want it, and then take that one little step. Like you said, it can be that far, just that one little action to go along with it, whatever it may be. And looking at your life, so many things were really big steps. You know, you cut out anything that was harmful to your bloodstream. So you quit alcohol when alcohol was a daily habit, right? A intense habit, something that was, so you were able to just really make a decision. And I want everybody listening to understand it starts with the decision. So give yourself permission to make the decision, to take the action, whatever it may be, however big or small, so that you can change your life. Moving on, because there's so much I want to talk to you about. So that's the scars. What was the turning point or the decision for you? Now you've got this thriving practice. You've learned so much about the healing arts, and you've got this business built. You've disconnected from toxicity in your life. You're healing yourself. But now you've decided to go into one-on-one coaching and group coaching. So what led to that transition in your business?
Yeah, for sure. So I had another really great blessing happen. Actually, I had I had been single for a very, very, very long time. Basically, since I left my daughter's father back when she was 18 months old. So I had been single a very long time, and I finally healed all of
Yes.
those hurts inside me, where I was open to the idea of a relationship. And December 2021, I guess, when we moved into the age of Aquarius, I performed a sacred ceremony for myself, and I called in my soulmate. I wrote out this ridiculously detailed 2-page description of what my perfect partner would need to be. And if this perfect partner or something better existed out there, I was open to the idea of stepping into a relationship for the first time in a very, very long time. 4 months later, I took a different job and I met my husband. And so I moved away from, this home that I had, created, where I had done all my healing and things. And I moved in, he was still my boyfriend at the time. So moved in, and I was working out of, 2 different businesses. I was massaging and doing my energy healing and all this, but I decided to rent out my house because I was living here and, my house was empty there. So I had this renter move in, and it was not a good experience. She did not follow through with what she said she would do in regards to keeping up the yard, keeping the house clean, and just being mindful of somebody else's space, right? We've all had an experience of a poopy renter. Well, I had a really poopy renter, and I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it, but it was really affecting me energetically. I was devastated that she was taking this beautiful place that I had created and basically running it into the ground. And anytime I had to go there for a check-in or, to fix the furnace or the hot water tank, and I would walk into just this disaster of a home, it was just like another knife to the back. And I started, without putting, the pieces together at the time, I started having these back spasms. And, as a body worker and someone who had been, a decade into working with the body and understanding how it talks to you, I just kind of thought, oh, okay, it's probably time to go to the chiropractor and get a massage, right? Massage therapist who, struggles with going to get a massage. Typical.
Yes.
But, so I dove into self-care again, because I know self-care works. And I went to massage and I went to the chiropractor regularly every 2 weeks for over 3 months. And the back spasm just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where it was gripping pain that would shoot from my back through my lungs, around my ribs, and I couldn't breathe. It was just the most excruciating pain. So it got to the point where, I couldn't even work. I literally could not work on people experiencing this spasm that just kind of started to be an all-day spasm. So I finally caved and I had to go to the doctor. Like I had tried all the things that I knew how to do as a healer and as a practitioner. I'd even reached out to a mentor of mine who was a healer, and, I tried to get some advice there and nothing was working. And so I finally had to go to the doctor, and they sent me for x-rays, and, they gave me these really strong drugs that I didn't want to take, but ended up having to. They, sent me up to go to physiotherapy, like all of these things. And what ended up happening was I evicted that renter, and I spent the weekend cleaning up the disaster that she had left in that house. And the very last thing I had to do in cleanup was the bathroom. And I was there, I was in pain. Like I had tears running down my face. My body was hurt so bad from this literal back spasm from morning to night. And I finished up the bathroom. I took one last look around the house, and it was like, oh, it's over. It's done. Like she is gone. She is out of my place. She's out of my energy. And like that, my back spasm stopped. I'm not joking, and it literally stopped. In the moment, I can honestly say I wasn't aware of it, but thinking back now, I was like, yeah, actually, it stopped. I drove all the way home. We were heading on a camping trip that weekend, and I was expecting to just be in pain and suffering the entire time. I didn't have a single back spasm, and it has never come back.
Amazing.
And in that moment, it was like, right, energy before form. I had been holding on to this feeling of being stabbed in the back because she told me she would take care of my property, my baby, and she didn't. She was literally stabbing me in the back. And until I went, it is done. I forgive. I'm over it. I let it go. I suffered in my physical body. My physical body was trying to tell me, you are feeling stabbed in the back. And I didn't put the pieces together until after. So this was when I realized I need to move out of just working the physical body. I need people to understand that your energy will always talk louder than your physical form. And if you're not listening, your physical form will begin to talk to you to let you know that there is something that needs to be fixed. So that was when I really just started to talk to my heart and was like, is this time? Is it time to move on into something bigger? I just felt this bigger calling. And so that's how I ended up creating a program.
Amazing.
A program for healing the mind, the soul, and the spirit.
That's amazing. And what a great testimony that you have with that story. Well, we are up for our third and final break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how you now work with people and how people can sign up for this amazing speaker series you've created. So don't go far. We'll be back with more with Denice and Soul CPR.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and TuneIn Radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
And we are back. And Denice, I am going to ask you if you had a key message that you would leave with our audience today for a takeaway, what would it be?
That's probably the toughest question you've asked me all day because I have so many. But I think the biggest key would be to start seeing yourself as a beautiful being. Start recognizing that it doesn't matter what has happened to you in your past lives. None of that matters. All that matters is what you choose for yourself going forward. Every day that you wake up is a blessing in disguise, one that you may not even understand yet, but I promise you that it is a blessing that you are here. There is a reason you are here. There's a reason I'm still here. I never thought that after my second overdose. Didn't ever think I'd still be here. But I'm here, and there's a reason I'm here. I'm here to share my story to help other women overcome the difficulties that they have lived in their lives, and to know that there is hope. There absolutely is hope. You can heal your life. You can trust in your ability to heal. You can learn to love yourself. You can teach yourself to love yourself. You can accept yourself, and you can find lasting peace in a spiritual connection. 100%.
I love that. And I think my takeaway that I would add to that would be that there is wisdom in every wound, for sure. And sometimes you just have to sit with it time. And sometimes that time is forced upon you, as yours was. And sometimes you may have to choose to sit with that time and listen and connect with your higher consciousness, which is your intuition, and allow it to come to you. So I thank you for that, Denice. So tell us about this speaker series that you've created that all of our audience can sign up for and benefit from.
Absolutely. So I have created a 14-day free online series where there's 2 to 3 speaker interviews being released every day over the 14 days. And the overarching message is about healing and bringing balance back to the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit. So this is a woman's roadmap to complete health.
Yeah.
And it's about trusting your ability to heal, embracing your perfect body as is, and feeling lasting peace from spiritual connection. So you can go to https://series, which is SERIES .Denice Buryn, DENICEBURYN /ANN. And I do believe it'll be in Anne's show notes as well. But you can go there, you can sign up for this free event, and I have 31 amazing speakers, including Anne, who have graciously gifted us with their wisdom, their stories, their tips, their advice. And it's become this beautiful creation full of high vibrational energy. And if you are anywhere on your journey where anything that I have said today resonates, then trust me, you want to be part of this series. It is definitely going to transform the way you see yourself, the way you feel about yourself. And it's really just, it's been a creation from the deepest part of my heart. So I hope you guys enjoy and come check us out.
Thank you so much, Denice. I know I'm going to be talking about self-love after toxic love. So I know that will appeal to some. And I think a lot of us have free giveaways as well. Like I've created this, whoopsie, which way on the camera? No, that
Other way.
Other way. Dan's helping me out. So, love guide. That will be a giveaway there on when you sign up for the event. So, Denice, thank you so much. And I apologize for mispronouncing your last name, Denice Buryn.
Oh,
Thank you for being with me today on Soul CPR and for sharing your wounds to wisdom story with my audience. I'm so very grateful. And as we come to the conclusion of today's episode, I want to remind all of our listeners that healing is not a linear journey, is it, Denice? It is a, a process, right? It's a process of profound transformation, and it's got curves and winding roads, and sometimes we fall off a cliff to get there. But it healing,
spirals.
it spirals. There you go. That's one way to say it. But if today's episode resonated with you, please share it with someone else who might need a lifeline of their own. We appreciate that. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more hearts. And you can connect with me on social media as well. On Facebook, I'm at Skyview Coaching. On Instagram, LinkedIn, and X at Ann Papayotti. Let me know your thoughts, your stories, topics you'd like to see or hear more from on Soul CPR. We'll make them happen. This show is for you. And you'll have all of Denice's contact information will be in the show notes as well. Her Facebook, her website, and more. All right. So thank you for listening. And until next time, may you find strength in your vulnerability and courage in your journey. Breathe deeply, love openly, and live soulfully. Good day, everyone.
This has been Soul CPR with host Ann Papayotti. Breathe life back into your spirit with each episode, where she and special guests explore the relationships that hurt us and discover that healing can only begin with you. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.